Hey, this is Grace from Typeform. I recently had the pleasure of chatting to Reckon, an Australia-based accounting software product. They used Typeform in their first ever annual customer feedback survey and saw some incredible results. So we wanted to get all the details on how they did it. Let's hear their story.
We were about to launch a new strategy or direction in our company. We also really wanted validation on our roadmap. We wanted to measure and understand sentiment of some of our users. So we really needed a lot of data and data clarity. We wanted to start measuring some benchmarks like MPS, CES, and CSAT, particularly from people we'd never heard from before. And we really wanted to test some of our assumptions. So we had built a strategy that we wanted to go forward with on assumptions that we knew a lot of our customers. We knew where they wanted to go. What about the customers we hadn't heard from? And what about some of those assumptions where we either weren't using as much data as we could, or we should, or we had some of that logic that we wanted to test? So it's really about making sure we're going in the right direction before we took any step there. We had some internal tools like Google Forms, Microsoft Forms. They'd also been using SurveyMonkey. You can do a little surveys in app queues. But Typeform was the one that was really robust, and we really wanted to do conditional logic and branching. So many tools either don't do it or don't do it right. So for us, it was just a no-brainer that we needed to learn Typeform. It's just such a superior tool. We knew we needed to have the strongest tool to do this particular project.
So we spent so much time before we actually went into the tool, gathering our learning objectives, gathering our assumptions, so that we were able to build questions that made sense and that we could get the answers that we needed. And when taking that into Typeform, it was so valuable for us to be able to use that logic, because after mapping out all our learning objectives and figuring out all the things we wanted to ask, I think we ended up with a list of about 125 questions we need to ask. But obviously 125 questions aren't relevant for every single person that's going to answer the survey. So being able to branch off into different directions depending on what people are answering was so incredibly valuable for us. So we could get the most relevant answers from the people that had the answers for us.
Yeah, I think scripting the questions was kind of the last step that we did. And I know for maybe a lot of survey designers, scripting the questions is the first thing. And then once that was all done, it's all in Typeform. So it wasn't trying to edit and change things in Typeform, because we really wanted to make sure we got the survey really, really, really good and really working well. So all the scripting was done before we went in. When we spoke to each leader and asking them about their learning objective, it was, what are you going to do with the data? You have to action the data, because if you're not going to action on whatever insight you get, we're not going to ask it, because we know there's a lot of questions in there and we don't want to fatigue our customers in going through the survey. So it was, if it's not actionable, we're not putting it in the annual survey. Maybe it can go in another survey at another time, or we can deep dive into one particular topic. But that was something that we were extremely firm on.
It was so exciting when we finally launched the Typeform survey. I was basically sitting there refreshing the results page every 5 minutes, because I was like, we've spent so long mapping this out, planning it. So it was, first of all, really exciting to see the results come through.
Our very first week was around an 11-minute completion time to do the survey. And great, people are excited. They want to get in there. They want to enter the competition. Give us our insights. We then found in week 2 and 3 that the completion time actually crept up, and it ended up being 19 minutes. And our assumption on that is some people really took their time to do the survey and go, you know what, I've got a bunch of feedback. Reckon's never asked me for feedback, or maybe on this particular topic. I really want to tell them what I think, how I'm feeling. I want to give, input into the roadmap. And then, looking at the drop-off point. So we did go in 2 or 3 times, because the drop-off point was happening on a question. We're like, okay, maybe we need to change it a little bit, or we need to route people around a little bit. So that was really, really, really helpful having that, because we did have the 3 weeks that we could adapt if we needed. Just getting a couple of hundred would have been great, great for us to know that the numbers that we got, that Typeform was this really robust platform to branch, condition logic, get us what we needed, get us to the heart of, you said this and now that. It really, really helped us out and gave us what we needed. For us, it was around breaking assumptions. So for example, we had a question in there around usage of a particular part of the product. The assumption around the business was that the majority of users use this feature, and what came back was not many of our users, so around maybe 20%, were using that. And that really impacted the direction of our roadmap. We had another piece around sentiment towards our strategy, because we had, for example, like direction A and direction B. We thought as a business that the majority of people were going to go with direction A, and we were surprised by, I think it was around 65% of people chose direction B. So that was something that our business had this assumption for a really long time, and we broke it with this really big representative sample. So for us, we really wanted to show how strategic research could be, that the leaders could do research via us, but really understanding some of the assumptions that they had held for a period of time that either had to be validated, or maybe market trends had changed, maybe our customer base had changed. So it's just really interesting being able to deliver those insights and getting those reactions back.
I was going to say, yeah, from a product design perspective, it's been really nice to have that survey as like a baseline when we're starting any project. So there's been there were so many comments in that survey that we can use now when we're starting a new project to have a read through the comment, let us see like what the sentiment is, and then we can use those comments as our assumptions when we're going into a project, and then dive deeper in with our customers and be like, okay, is this true for everyone else as well? What more research do we need to do around it? So it's just really nice to have that sort of like baseline of information when we're going into any project now as well.
Yeah, our senior and leadership team were like, this is the most amazing results that we've got in our customers for a long time. So to hear that, that was really special for us.
All that time we spent building out that survey almost a year ago now is still impacting my day-to-day. When I'm designing products, I can still kind of tie back to that always. We're not just building something because we think that we need to do it. We can actually validate that this is something that we really need to do and that our customers are asking for. Yeah, we use it all the time. So it's just been so valuable for us.
Definitely influence the roadmap too. What customers are using, where they want to see improvements, where their pain points were. So all across the business, we're always using that annual survey to help guide us. I would honestly say such a positive impact, and that's because of the capability and the breadth that Typeform offered us. If we had something like our internal form system where we couldn't branch, we couldn't do logic, we would have to be giving every single person the exact same questions, which would decrease so much relevance. We also wouldn't be able to dig into anything, and it just wouldn't give us accurate or clean data. So honestly, if we didn't have something like Typeform, I don't even know if we'd be able to run this project. It just wouldn't have given us the results we needed to give us the direction for our business strategy, which is so important to us. So I'd say it's the capabilities honestly made this project.
I think for me, obviously, research is so much bigger than the tool you use. So making sure you've planned it out properly before you just go ahead and build out the survey or whatever research you're doing, having that real research, having your method set down in stone, having your assumptions laid out, your hypothesis, your learning objectives. It just makes it so much easier for you the whole way through, being able to analyze it, making sure that you're getting the responses you need, making sure that the data, that you can tie it back to something that it is valuable. So I think making sure you've planned things properly. Yeah.
Consider the user who's going through an 125 question survey. Just how easy can you make it? Because you don't want fatigue. You want the answers to replicate some of the wording in the questions so you can really scan and not have to read everything word for word to get the right answer in. Enabling that branching and logic. So no, you don't need to do every single question. We allowed some sections to be skippable. So we said, hey, do you want to answer more questions at this point, or do you want to skip ahead? So just thinking about that customer fatigue and making it super easy for them to go through the survey, making the questions so succinct and easy to read, easy to scan. We just wanted to be really straightforward and go, kind of like, here's what we're looking for. So I think just thinking about that customer going through it and minimizing fatigue and confusion as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, also now that we've sort of been through it before with Typeform, we know a lot more what we're doing, and we also have some ideas about how we can improve for next year. So like other features that we want to use, for example, partial submit points, that's going to be one that we're going to use for sure, because we know it's going to be a long survey. So trying to capture those people that dropped off before they leave us. Also working a little bit more on the theme, making it a little bit more fun. I know last year it was very heavily focused on the research side of it, but we're going to spend a bit of time figuring out how we can make it more visually appealing, because I know Typeform has the capability to do that. And then also just, being able to analyze the results this year is going to be so exciting, because we have last year's one to go off. So now we have that benchmark to compare to. So it's going to be a good project.